All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. This is a regularly scheduled 10 a.m. meeting of the City Utilities Committee for Tuesday, May 10th. 10 a.m. And we have with us Mr. to my right, your left, Mr. Hillis, Mr. Winston, Ms. Boone. I'm Howard Shook. Mr. Antonio Lewis is here, and Ms. Bakhtiari, Mr. Wan. So we're at full strength. I'm going to call the meeting to order. There are no proposed changes to the agenda, so I will move its adoption. Second by Hillis. Let's open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, thank you. Agenda is adopted. Colleagues, you've all had an opportunity to carefully read the agenda. There's been a motion and multiple seconds to adopt them. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the minutes stand approved. That takes us to public comment. I'm not showing the list on my screen. I assume there is a hard copy somewhere. Oh, go ahead, kick us off, Mr. Pendergast. Oh, there it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know some of you from before, some of you are new members, and I very much appreciate all of your service to the city. I know each and every one of you want to do the right thing for this city, and I appreciate it. My name is Craig Pendergast, and I'm an attorney, and I, along with my partner Michael Johnson, have been representing a class of property owners in the city of Atlanta against whom illegal frontage fees and multifamily fees were charged under the solid waste code, particularly as it was amended back in November of 2018 to really ratchet up the fees against commercial condo apartment owners. We brought a suit, and that suit is settled. You all who were on council back in November, approved that, and a little over a month ago, Judge Ellerby gave final approval to that settlement. Part of that settlement was with the city attorney recommending that these so-called fees, frontage fees, multifamily fees, be repealed in the ordinance. And you all are in the process of getting to that. How you go about replacing them is an open issue. It will be the subject of your work session on Thursday, and I'll be back to make comments along with Mr. Johnson to help. Our goal is to avoid this situation going forward. We do not, on behalf of our class, want to have to bring another action. Today before you is a proposed charter amendment that goes to the same subject matter. And I don't know who drafted it, but it's bad. It includes language to try to have the city charter purportedly authorize the frontage fees that were illegal. Whoever wrote it seems to think that the city charter is the absolute controlling document, but the city charter can't go against state law. These things were illegal under state law, and you can't wave a wand with your charter and suddenly make them legal. So what you've got before you on your agenda today, the city proposed charter amendment, which if you actually look at it, is so full of incomprehensible in many ways language, duplicative, repetitive, overreaching language that expressly tries to include frontage fees in it, you would be setting yourself up, setting the city up for further problems. You do not need to adopt this charter amendment in order to either repeal the old fees that need to be repealed or to adopt a replacement for them via funding through the general fund. My request to you is to table the charter amendment.
Okay. Thank you. And as was mentioned, we do have a work session on this very topic, and that is Thursday, 10 a.m. Right here in this committee room. Is there anyone from law here who might care to offer a response? Okay, not at this time. So, all right, it is a charter amendment, so as you know, that requires 3 reads, and you know, it's supposed to preserve an option, one of which we'll be discussing at greater length coming up in the days to follow. No, Mr. Prendergast, no. Mr. Shakir.
Thanks for the opportunity to address utilities. My name is Ryan Shakir. I rise because great men and great history has brought us here. And what we're seeing in that has been a good effort of people being able to address and be able to have a voice, and that is People TV. And that voice today has been shut down. And it hasn't been a court to do it since Maynard Jackson was wise enough to think it was okay, since so much fiber and cable was being laid in Atlanta, to give the people a voice on a channel. And it wasn't no city council who did it in all those years in between. It wasn't the mayor who did it. But today, because of some workings that we've not been able to put our hands on yet, we are shut down for over 40 days now. Ms. Adrian Coleman made some great comments, and I believe that there's capital, intellectual capital, that can get People TV back on the air, and it should be done immediately. And the young mayor of Atlanta now is heading in a direction that I believe he'll be better served. He'll be a better servant to the city if the people can address and have a voice. And shutting down People TV is not the right way. I've been down to these meetings, maybe about 400 meetings or more, because of protests. I don't want to go into that protest now. But there was times when we was able to come and speak before the meeting, before the agenda, and after the agenda. And with the presence of young people, with progressive people, with New Atlanta going forward, we have seen roll these opportunities to address our democratic or participate in the democratic process at this city council is being rolled back. And I hope that you stand up. Mr. Westmoreland was the first one to take it off from first to second, from the beginning to the end. He gave us one shot. I hope you're able to understand, young people, that when presentations was made at this here podium, the citizens was able to address that person who presented that after that presentation was made to you all. Understand that you cannot be in your progressive thoughts and vision, cannot be a part of, and your voice must be a part of protesting and making sure that the public voice is getting stronger and having a bigger place. I know that the young lady, I don't pronounce her name right here, but I heard great things about her. I heard that she was going to win this race that she was in. But I look forward to Mr. Shook's point, that we have to be on the clock, but that clock should not be rolled back by taking people off the opportunity to be able to come in at the end of the meeting, for people who come in late, and information that is said in this meeting that we should have a conversation and also. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Shakira, I set up a meeting for People TV with Ms. Clayton, and they didn't show up. They hit me up the day of the meeting. They canceled it that day, and so that was I tried.
Yes, well, we hope that. I know I'm going to sit right down real quick. I hope that invitation be extended to the chair of the board of People TV and not the general manager of People TV.
And I think that's part of why I set up the meeting, because there's so many different things coming from so many different people. Yes. I thought she was the leader. Now you telling me it's a different one. So I tried to set up a work. I tried. They didn't show up. I tried. Okay. Well, I'm a member of that board, and I would hope that, and I'm directing you now to the chair of People TV, the board of the People TV is who you're directing, and that's Dr. Wilson. But I'll talk to you after the meeting, and we can talk about that a little more. Okay. And so there's a work session on public access television. That's May 26, 10 a.m. Here in committee room. So 26, right here in committee room 1. Do we have any other public commenters? Okay, there being none, and Mr. Pendergrass, law says it will respond fully to your issue at the work session Thursday. Okay. We have a request to move up item J7, which we had held. This is a communication 22C 5054, a communication from Council President Shipman reappointing Mr. Derek George to serve as a member of the Water and Sewer Appeals Board. Appointments for a term of 3 years to begin retroactively November 20th of 2020 and expire November 19th of 2023. And Mr. George is here. Come on up, sir. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for your offer of service to this important board. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, good morning, Mr. Shook and council members. My name is Derek George, respectfully known through the city as Gabby. I'm a lifelong resident of this great city of Atlanta. Through the 51 years I've been alive, I've been living in Atlanta. I've been serving the community in Atlanta. I run a nonprofit organization that serves on the South Side primarily. Serving on the Water Sewer Appeal Board, I bring experience that I've learned over the years, and from the South Side, and I get an opportunity to serve the entire city for its customers. I like to serve it honestly, unbiasedly, and I like to make these customers who file their appeals feel that they're getting the just judgment. So.
All right, excellent.
Motion to approve.
Second. All of us want to do this.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mr. Lewis. Just out of
Let's go.
All right.
on the noise meter. All right, thank you. Let's open the vote.
Mr. Chair, please repeat the mover and the seconder, please.
Well, I know the seconder was Mr. Lewis. I believe Mr. Wan made the original motion.
It was Winston. I was going to say, that's my career.
Oh.
All right.
All right.
Definitely won.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Sir.
Yes. You all continue to do the great work you're doing for our city.
All right, that takes us to our single item, which is first read 22-0-1374, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing mayor's designee to execute amendment number 3 to existing task order, number of which is indicated, A&E and design services with Arcadis BPA. And it seems to vary by committee. It said, must this be read?
Sorry.
Well, no, I'm going to.
Mr. Chair, we do have a presentation.
Okay, well, so we do. But let's finish with this. So must these be read or not read?
Yes, it needs to be read.
All right, let me finish reading the captions. First read. Extend the term of the task order for a period not to exceed 6 months, retroactively effective February 8th, 2022 through August 7th, 2022, on behalf of the Department of Public Works to add funding to the task order number 143 in the amount not to exceed $650,000 in accordance with section of the code, which is indicated here. All contract work to be charged to and paid from, etc. So that'll come back. And now I will reverse my very Freudian slip, and we will hear from the Department of Public Works.
Good morning, Chairman Shook, committee members, and to our viewing public. Our witness Commissioner of Public Works, and I will deliver the Department of Public Works FY22 Q3 quarterly report, which includes the months of January, February, March of 2022. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to go over a few major priorities and accomplishments that have been made since we last spoke. We filled several key leadership positions. We've also have several positions that are scheduled to be filled underway. We've had a few enhanced beautification efforts, solid waste routing software, which we'll discuss a little bit later, that we're looking to implement. We're looking to implement a litter education plan as well. And we also have implemented a new office in the Department of Public Works, which is the Office of Service Delivery. Okay, so we recently, the leadership team with DPW got together. We completed our 2-year strategic plan. We really didn't want to go beyond 2 years in light of the technology that we're looking to introduce, and we had some major issues that we really wanted to address. And so looking beyond 2 years, we thought would be a little bit too aggressive at this point. I think I'm confident that during this exercise of us all getting together, we were able to gain clarity on our next steps of putting the department back on its feet. So as you know, the City of Atlanta Department of Public Works, like many other waste providers across the country, was hit hard with staffing shortages that led to service disruption during the COVID-19 pandemic. December was a very difficult month for us, but we've made some significant improvements post of us making some changes to help us get the department back on its feet. We were able to increase our solid waste staffing by 25% through assistance with the Department of Department of Human Resources. We also resumed our regular collection schedule after those challenges back in January. A big part of us being able to rebound from those challenges was, again, filling key leadership positions. We were able to bring folks on board that were able to help us to critically think through these issues. We're certainly not claiming an early victory at this point. We realize that we need to really implement technology and become more innovative in our practices, and we'll discuss that a little bit later in the presentation. But routing software, again, is going to be a critical part of us really deploying our services more efficiently. So we restored our yard trimming collections through an innovative partnership with 2 local landscaping companies. We initially put the services out to bid. We did not receive a response. We did not receive any interest from the private sector. And so, again, thinking innovatively, we reached out to landscaping companies. We knew that their business would be slow during the fall season, and they were able to assist us with yard debris collection, which, again, helped the department to rebound. We restructured our right-of-way mowing and our delittering schedule in a manner that improved the frequency and number of road service through existing staff and equipment. Again, after a rigorous evaluation process, DPW received our reaccreditation as a certified public works agency through the APWA. We're proud to say that there are only 129 accredited agencies in North America. The Office of Fleet Service were the 2021 winner of the Southeast Governmental Fleet Managers Association Best City Fleet Award. The Office of Fleet Service was featured in the Georgia APWA magazine as a recipient of this prestigious award. Moving on to the Office of Service Delivery. We recently created this office. One of the major responsibilities of this office is to ensure all customer service related matters are handled in a timely manner and an efficient manner as well. As you know, we've had challenges in the past with cases being closed out prematurely without proper resolution. This team will be responsible for ensuring that all cases are handled properly from intake to completion. Oversight of service delivery was created during the last quarter. The areas of oversight include customer service and complaint resolution, quality assurance, quality control, field inspections, and data analysis and reporting. Excuse me, I'm having a difficult time speaking this morning. Okay, so our collections SLA completion between Q2 and Q3, we increased meeting service levels by 67%. I think that's a significant improvement just by putting this office in place in less than 30 days. Our total service requests increased from Q2 to Q3 by about 5,000 requests, with us having completed 89% of those requests in Q3. We have updated the method for capturing our data with a more standardized process, which allows for more consistency in meeting our service levels. So as I mentioned earlier, staffing challenges remains a problem. We are definitely working with the Department of Human Resources to increase our staffing position. Recruitment and retention remains a challenge. However, we are working through those issues. One of the major issues that we're experiencing right now is that we have a lot of tenured employees that have a huge vacation balance. And so we are working during the summer months to ensure that that time is exhausted to prevent them from being in a use-or-lose situation, which typically occurs in December, which is one of our heavier months for solid waste collections. This is during the time where we have the disposal of Christmas gifts, Christmas trees, and things of that nature. And so we're, again, thinking ahead to try to prevent and to reduce the accumulation of these leave balances. Injury and illnesses continue to be a factor that impacts our attendance. During the summer months, our injuries increase, primarily because of heat and just the tempo of what we do, and adding heat into the equation increases the injuries. As it relates to vehicle readiness, we purchased 8 additional rear loader collection trucks, and we're in the process of conducting a citywide feasibility study for the use of automated side-loaded trucks. These are the trucks that you may see throughout the city in certain areas, they're affectionately called the one-armed bandit. So basically, we can use this truck with just a single operator. This is very important because, again, it helps us to improve the efficiency of the services that we provide. We're able to reduce the crew size by 66% for each crew. And by reducing those crew sizes, we're able to reallocate those crews to other areas, such as right-of-way maintenance, mowing, bulk pickup, and illegal dumping. expect for the results of that study to come back within the next 30 days, and we'll come back to you with the plan, hopefully to purchase additional automated side-loader trucks to use in other areas throughout the city. This goes in conjunction with our 5-year vehicle replacement plan. We're in year 2 of that program. Thank you to the Mayor's Executive Office and the City Council for appropriating approximately $12 million last year for us to purchase new vehicles. Many of our vehicles have exceeded the anticipated life cycle. The cost of ownership for many of our assets had exceeded the value of the asset, so the purchase of the equipment came at a great time. It's important that we maintain our vehicle replacement cycle, because if we purchase all of our vehicles at once, obviously they all go bad at once. And so this staggered approach will help to reduce the annual cost for capital purchases, and it will also help us to maintain our vehicle readiness level. Okay, we'll move on to Operation Clean Sweep. So Operation Clean Sweep is a proactive City of Atlanta campaign designed to address citywide beautification, largely involving the mowing and maintenance of our public right-of-ways. The campaign also addresses litter pickup, illegal dumping, sign removal, and bulk collections. The collaborative initiative is a campaign promise made good by Mayor Dickens. OCS was launched as Phase 0, led by the mayor, and included volunteer support from COA employees and executive leadership. The campaign continues under the purview of DPW and now includes support from Hands On Atlanta and other community groups. So this picture that you see is at the intersection of Northside Drive and Marietta Street. And so, again, we're looking at ways to just implement innovative approaches. This is a wildflower planting program. I'm sure you can recognize that those flowers aren't in place currently, but this is a digitally altered image that will show how those flowers would appear if they were planted. We looked at this intersection because of the difficulty of servicing that intersection. It's very difficult for us to get our mowers in that location. It's very dangerous for our workers. And it will also, again, help to reduce the maintenance levels and allow us to spend our time elsewhere. There's our landfill summary report. All of our sites passed the June 2021 landfill inspections conducted by SA Environmental Protection Division. Our methane sampling reports came back favorably, and we're in very good standing with our deactivated landfills. So you will see a map here that is a display of our service areas. There's an overlay of our council districts as well. Councilmember Juan, I know at some point you asked about the values of our recyclable commodities. You'll see a drastic increase over the last 12 months in cardboard, mixed paper, and plastics. We don't know how long this trend will continue, and so we are hopeful that it will. We're very proud to report that we receive a little bit over $700,000 rebate for our recyclable materials, which was not an anticipated source of revenue, which will be used towards the purchase of our vehicle routing software. Okay, you'll see our metrics for our solid waste tonnage disposals. I think it's important to note that we service nearly 1,500 miles of right-of-way, 1,500 miles were serviced with our solid waste collections. We're continuing to capture KPIs in our performance measures. this is an evolving process. Again, what I would like to mention is that we're collecting trash and we're ferrying our trash outside of the city of Atlanta to various transfer stations because our landfills have been deactivated, which takes a tremendous amount of time. And so we're, again, looking to use our vehicle routing software to work around those challenges. All right, moving on to bulk collections. We filled nearly 8,500 requests of bulk collections. On a daily basis, now we receive nearly 100 requests, so we're spending a significant amount of time collecting bulk waste. The total fulfilled requests, again, for Q3 was nearly 8,500 requests. Moving on to KABC. You'll see that we had several events that have taken place over this reporting period. We've collected nearly 47,000 pounds of debris, cleaned over 130 miles of right-of-way, and nearly 3,400 hours of volunteer hours, and nearly 1,200 volunteers. This does not include the efforts of Operation Clean Sweep. This is work that's solely been done by KABC. And below you'll see a list of events that are managed by KABC. Moving on to innovation and technology. So we're always looking to use innovation and technology to deploy our services. As you know, we have a finite amount of resources, and we're looking at ways to strategically and efficiently provide those services. Continuous improvement is a goal of the entire DPW leadership team. We're always looking at ways to build a better mousetrap, if you will. So the map that you see to your left is a map of the existing street-side trash receptacles. We conducted a study last year, last spring, and we evaluated all of our major and our collector streets, and the criteria was we were looking at streets that were heavily littered, moderately littered, and lightly littered. The map to your right is color-coded to reflect the status of each street. And so we're using that map in conjunction with the study of the placement of our trash cans to understand if we need to look at placing the cans in closer intervals to reduce the amount of waste and litter that is disposed by pedestrians. Councilmember Lewis, I know that you asked me about the installation of trash cans along the Cleveland Avenue corridor. That is a corridor that we're looking at specifically. And so we're collecting that data in conjunction with other cans that are privately owned as well. So we have identified some streets that will receive additional trash cans. We're also looking at the installation of mobile surveillance cameras. We are working with the company through a 30-day trial period. We're using 3 of those cameras, and so far they're working pretty well. We place these cameras in areas in our top 3 sites that we're experiencing illegal dumping. Proud to say that I've inspected 2 of the 3 of those sites this morning, and we have not experienced any illegal dumping over the course of a week and a half. So we believe that this may be a tool that we can integrate into our day-to-day operations. It's important that we have these cameras because it's very difficult to mount cameras on a fixed utility pole. We have to get co-locate permits from the utility providers, and it's just a time-consuming process. And so our goal is if the study is successful, that we will be able to mobilize these cameras in various areas throughout the city instead of dealing with the limitations of installing fixed cameras. We will also participate in a demonstration of a radio-controlled lawnmower. This would be helpful as we work with the state to maintain state-owned properties. As you know, their maintenance intervals is is not as strict as the cities. I believe that the state will mow their right-of-ways every 60 days, and that's a pretty generous statement, and that particularly occurs in high-profile areas. And so the benefit of these mowers is that, again, we want to make sure that we don't place our employees in areas that are dangerous due to topography or heavy traffic. This will also allow us to mow the lawn with just a single operator, so we could reduce the crew size and deploy our crews in different areas throughout the city. Okay, going back to the routing software, the benefit of the routing software is to identify repeat offenders, such as areas where we have late putouts or areas where we have illegal dumping, and routing our vehicles. The routing software will help us with that. It will reduce us going back to locations that we may have missed. We'll also provide real-time data for the location of our vehicles and just general routing assistance. So our timeline for bringing the request back before you is going to be circa mid-June. So we will have more information for you regarding the routing software platform that the department will choose and present before you. Moving on to Office of Fleet Services. So the department services just under 6,000 pieces of equipment and vehicles, which was a slight increase from last quarter. I believe we added maybe 150 assets to our inventory. Our repairs decreased last quarter to just over 4,000. We believe that COVID had a huge impact. Just the reduction of vehicle use had an impact on that particular stat. Our citywide vehicle availability has risen to 93%. Moving on to human resources. You see our new org chart here. Despite still having some positions open in our senior leadership roles, as mentioned earlier, we have filled key leadership positions to help ensure reliable and timely services. Moses Tajuso, formerly with Keep Atlanta Beautiful, has been assigned as the Deputy Program Manager Officer for Solid Waste. He has made significant improvements. I'm pretty sure you all have experienced that directly. Tracy Chambers is our new Deputy Program Management Officer for Solid Waste in our Special Operations Division. She comes to us from our Code Enforcement team, where she also served in a leadership position and was very successful over making several changes over our Code Enforcement Division. We have also added our Service Delivery Manager, Ms. Brittany McClure, who comes to us from ATL 311, where she served as a liaison between 311 and DPW, and she is also doing a tremendous job. So our current staffing at the moment for solid waste is about 79%. We're at approximately 73% with fleet, and DPW is at approximately 76%. The Office of the Commissioner is at 77%. We're working with DHR and trying to find creative ways to fill these positions, such as hiring blitz. We're also looking at our postings of our employment opportunities with several other sites outside of the city's employment page. So again, it's staffing remains a challenge, but we're doing everything that we can do to fill these critical positions. Moving on to finance. So as of March 31st, the department spent about $42 million, which is about 74%, just under their 75% expected spending. Due to staffing challenges, we've exceeded the anticipated cost for contractual services, particularly in the area of bulk pickup services. We continue to work with Human Resources to backfill several frontline vacant positions, to continue providing core services and mitigate large-scale disruptions in collection services. The department authorized overtime and supplemented staff using 4 temporary labor agencies. The department also used emergency contracts to handle backlogs and illegal dumping, right-of-way maintenance, and yard trimming collections. And we are seeing improvements in those areas, withstanding our challenges with aging facilities and equipment. Moving on to our safety division. Safety remains our top priority, especially as we enter into the spring and summer seasons. As we mentioned earlier, the complications associated with the warmer climate. Our safety team completed over 1,300 hours of training for CDL classrooms, road skills, drive cam training for high-risk drivers. This training focuses on creating and maintaining an environment that creates a safety mindset among employees, especially our drivers who face multiple challenges as they navigate the city streets on a regular basis. And you'll see some of our training flyers and the hours that were dedicated to certain training courses. We would also like to highlight some of our frontline heroes. You see Ms. Alice Lattimore, who received the award from the mayors. It's a Spotlight Award, which encourages team members to go above and beyond residents' expectations and meet the highest standards of service to our community. Ms. Lattimore is a tenured employee. She has well over 20 years of service, and we're very proud of her, and we expect for her to continue to do great things also. Sadly, in March, we announced the passing of our colleague and friend, Mr. Santonio, as we affectionately call him, Quick Mobley. Mr. Mobley passed as he was submitting his retirement paperwork. So a very dedicated employee. The department is still dealing with this difficult loss. We're rebounding from the loss of a friend and a colleague. Please keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. So lastly, I would like to thank the hardworking men and women of DPW. They put their bodies on the line every day. It's a very difficult job that very few people want to do or will do. But I would just like to give my personal shout out to Team DPW and our frontline workers again. This concludes my report, and I will address any questions at this time should you have any.
Alex? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for that presentation. Just a couple of questions for you. You talked about kind of where you are in staffing right now, 74% of where you need to be in totality. City is experiencing explosive growth. A lot of new multifamily developments are happening all across Atlanta. What's the plan to kind of address the future needs of, the growth of the city in terms of being able to make sure we can manage the levels of tonnage of waste that we're going to be seeing in the future?
So that's a very good question. We have not seen a significant increase in the amount of waste disposal. But as it relates to staffing, again, we met with DHR as recently as 2 weeks ago. And what we're doing is we're looking at critical positions and making sure that we are going through professional organizations, maybe trade organizations, to recruit those specific positions directly. We're also looking at funding these positions before we reach a certain level. So our goal now for critical positions for them to not go below a 95% staffing level, which seems pretty aggressive because it is, because we have such a difficult time. And also we're looking at the applications that we receive immediately. Previously, we were looking to get a certain amount of applicants so that we can interview them all together, but we have positions that are just way too critical to fill and to wait until we get a group of applicants. And so we're implementing various strategies, such as the hiring blitz that I mentioned to you earlier. We have waived some of our requirements that we've had previously for our frontline workers, particularly in the areas of waste collections. We're looking to partner with workforce development agencies as well. So we're throwing everything at it that we possibly can. The city of Atlanta is no different from any other city that is experiencing the same challenges. But we're also looking at ways that we could work around our staffing challenges through the use, again, of technology and just finding innovative practices.
Okay. And then my district is one of the beneficiaries of the Live View camera program that's been rolled out, and have seen some really good positive results with that program. What are the plans for expansion? I'm sure some of my colleagues who are missing out on that right now would love to see that in their district as well, since we've been seeing such good results.
Again, so yes, sir, you were the beneficiary because the particular site that we deployed the camera in your district was one of our top 3 locations. And so as we roll down the list, we would like to leave these cameras in place for at least 30 days. Of course, depending on the circumstances, we may remove the cameras a little bit earlier if we feel like we've achieved a certain amount of success. But we're also looking at why these areas are so desirable for illegal dumping. We've have found some common traits in some of the sites, such as a heavy tree canopy that provides concealment during night for illegal dumping. So we're working with the Department of Parks and Recs to trim back some of those trees to open up the areas, if you will. So the next stage of this process is to deploy these cameras in other areas. But just keep in mind, the city does not own these cameras. We're using them on a trial basis. But if the success continues, obviously we will explore the idea of purchasing the cameras.
And then just lastly, just want to send a shout out to Ms. Asian Bright Porter. She's so responsive in your department and has been really great at coordinating a lot of things that we've needed. So just wanted to send a quick shout out to her. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Commissioner Wiggins. A few questions. I know you highlighted it somewhat in your presentation, but can you just give the overall status of where we are with right-of-way maintenance? I know I was asked and submitted, a list of priority streets, whether it's connectors, arterials, some local streets, because as we're moving into mid-spring, going into summer, I'm seeing a lot of my right-of-ways already get out of hand. So where are we with that?
Councilmember Hillis, that's a great question. Our strategy is for our arterial roads, which is our major roads, is that we will service those areas twice a month. And the collector streets, which are connected to the major roads, for once a month. It doesn't sound like like the maintenance is as frequent as we would like for it to be. It's not. As you know, we have a finite amount of resources. And so the remaining roads are roads that we will handle on a complaint basis only. Our goal is to make sure that our major thoroughfares are clean and presentable. Each road is important to us, but we have to have some priority in addressing overgrown vegetation and litter. To cover those gaps, we have partnered with Hands on Atlanta. We have their volunteer portal on our site for volunteer opportunities. So for an example, the roads that we maintain twice a month, we're looking for assistance through Hands on Atlanta to provide volunteers for the other 2 weeks where we aren't able to service those areas. We have also partnered with Invest Atlanta. We have received 25 additional laborers that will help with litter collection, and we are deploying those workers through various areas throughout the city. And we have also partnered with the Atlanta Department of Corrections and some of our higher priority corridors, as you saw the map that we displayed earlier, where we scored the streets that were heavily and moderately and lightly littered. The Department of Corrections will focus on the roads that are heavily littered. Currently, they're working the Lee Street and Murphy Street corridor. So we anticipate that we'll expand that to Campbellton Road and Northside Drive. But we're trying to approach it from every end. We're trying to use the resources that we have efficiently. Our goal is to be reliable, to be where we say we're going to be, to do exactly what we say we're going to do. And so the challenge is that we will always struggle with overgrown vegetation. I've met with a few of our partners throughout the city, such as Greenbrier Mall. We're working with the Atlanta University Center. We plan to reach out to the Carter Center, and we're looking at their maintenance intervals. Our goal is to not be there at their sites at the same time as their employees or their contractors are performing the work, to prevent any redundancy. So for an example, if the Greenbrier Mall, if their contractors are out on Tuesday, we want to make sure that we're out maybe Tuesday the following week to prevent any unnecessary overlap. But as it stands today, our strategy is to make sure that we maintain our arterials twice a month and our collector streets once a month and the remaining streets on a complaint basis.
And one of the other things in your presentation, and maybe this is we can expand on this at the work session, but you mentioned a rebate from, as recycling has become somewhat of a commodity, we get a rebate. How is that, or was that factored into the solid waste study?
So it was not, because it was not a thing during that time. The recyclable materials weren't a commodity during that time. We had issues with barges full of recyclable materials sitting in the ocean during that time. So, obviously, now that the items have become a commodity, we are looking at what type of impact does it have on our overall operational costs. But again, we're not sure where this trend will land. This is a recent change of events, and so we're just closely monitoring this situation and not making any sudden decisions based on the recently received rebates.
And on to fleet services, which we spoke about before. When this first came to my attention, it was through APD. They had 99 vehicles that were in the shop, whether it be through your DPW shop, but they may be also shopped out to dealerships. We had a conversation, and it was something high on your priority list. That went down to 78 within a few weeks. It went back up to 89, and most recently, what I've heard, it's over 100 now. It's up to 110 plus. So what is the status of getting that shop where it needs to be, and also holding the presently 2 dealerships that we shop work out to accountable when it comes to servicing our vehicles in a timely manner?
So we, since you and I last had the discussion about the repair of police vehicles through fleet services, we have lost the director's position. We're looking to fill that position. We're also down the deputy director's position. So the goal is to fill that position to ensure that we have the leadership in place to ensure the timely repair of vehicles. We've also looked at extending the hours beyond our evening hours or beefing up our crews. But again, retaining and recruiting technicians still is a challenge at this point. So our number one goal is filling those positions. Deputy Commissioner Anu has been reassigned to provide temporary oversight of that area. He's making some significant challenges in the area of the utilization of software as well, to make sure that each time that our vehicles are received at the shop from intake to return to the respective agencies, that the process is handled in a timely manner. So we're also integrating new positions, entry-level positions and mid-level positions, to fill those gaps. I've recently reached out to one of our outside providers that actually repair vehicles. I performed an impromptu on-site visit and did an inventory of the vehicles that we have. and asked them to provide a status update on the repairs of those vehicles. And so we're working it from all ends. We expect for you to see a significant turnaround in the next 30 to 45 days, but we're still actively working through our issues with getting our vehicles up and running.
And one of the things, and just so the committee knows how this came up, is I took my vehicle out for service, and it was at one of the providers, outside providers, and I saw all kinds of police vehicles, Sheriff Labatt's vehicles, Watershed management vehicles just sitting around at this dealership. I'm like, something is wrong here. And shortly after there, I think some of your staff and ABD took a visit to two dealerships. One of them could tell them, exactly how many they had, what the status was, et cetera. And then another dealership was in a tizzy and couldn't tell them hardly anything. And one thing that came up in our conversation previously was the possibility, and from that APD trip, was the possibility of adding a third dealership.
Yes.
Has that been explored?
Yes. So we're looking at adding actually 2 additional dealerships. At the same time, we're also looking at our vendors. We're completing our vendor scorecards to outline the experience. We have several services through vendors that are scheduled to go out to bid this summer. And so we will use those vendor scorecards in making determinations if we will continue the relationships with some of these outside providers. The majority of our vehicles that we have in the COA fleet are Ford vehicles. And so we have a set amount of providers that are able to provide services to vehicles, particularly vehicles that are still under warranty. So in conjunction with looking at other providers, we're using the vendor scorecards and sharing the information with the vendors prior to any of our bids reopening so they can adjust their performance if needed.
And one last question/comment, and as you know, this is something I'm very passionate about, and I thank you because since I brought it to your attention and we've made some on-site visits, things have improved. However, this map is very glaring. District 9 is the only council district that has a transfer station in this district, which wouldn't be a problem if it was one of our industrial areas, but it's literally on the Chattahoochee River, a few hundred feet from residential homes. The city also, as you know, and we've talked about, adopted the Chattahoochee Riverlands Plan, which envisions the site, given its location, to be a trailhead. And I believe planning is about to, they've applied at least to the ARC for a feasibility study for that trail completion. So what is the status of finding a more acceptable alternative location for that transfer station?
So we continue to work with the executive office to try to find alternative locations. The difficulty comes from what we call NIMBY, not in my backyard. So it is very difficult to find a site from the perspective of logistics and the department being able to ferry the equipment to the respective site and being able to complete the routes in a timely manner. So our challenge is also finding sites that are properly zoned for that type of use. So we're in constant communication with the mayor's executive office about potential locations, but we have not found a site that would accommodate our needs at this time.
And, you bring up zoning, which, of course, the city's not held to, at least within its boundaries. But if this was a private company, which I've had one shut down in my district because they submitted, a business license saying they were a tree service that just had an office somewhere, they ended up erecting a transfer station, which requires a special use permit if you were a private operator, which this does not have and would never get. So we need to work harder to identify a location for this site to move to. So we'll have further conversations about that. But I sincerely do thank you for the improvements that you have brought there, but, I don't want to spend too much of the city's money at that location, mitigating the sound, the dust, et cetera, when we need to be spending money on finding a different location.
Yes, sir. I can assure you that we're working diligently. The difficult part is just finding an alternative location.
Appreciate your service and your willingness to help with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
So I want to say thank you so much to the hardworking people in DPW. The city of Atlanta won't work until we treat the trash man like the policeman, and I wholeheartedly believe in that. I appreciate everything you've been doing. In this a short time period I've been in office, I've seen the transformation of that department and growth of the department. And so I think this is the first time that we've had an opportunity since you've had this job to actually be working from your office. Because you started in the middle of COVID. So I'm trying to find where we got this talent from. But
Thank you.
I got a couple questions after that as well, because I've seen the improvement just that fast, because I know how you and I met. But I noticed the improvement. Huge strides in employment. The mobile service cameras, how much are those?
They're approximately $50,000 each.
So with that $700K that you found, you went and found your own money. With that $700K, we can go get some more of those.
Well, we're hopeful that we will be able to deploy those funds towards the purchase of our vehicle routing software.
So you found your own money to purchase your stuff.
I would love to take credit for it, but it's a situation that honestly
I haven't heard that since I've been here. No one's ever came here with surprise money since I've been here, so that's a huge thing to me. Another thing that I saw was I'm happy that we found the bottleneck that was in the hiring process as well. I know we discussed from meeting one when we talked about having almost 300 open positions, and we started immediately filling them the moment we found that bottleneck. And you said it was because we were waiting to get a lot of applications at once.
That was part of the problem, is that the duration between the time that we received the application and conducting the interviews, we determined that once we called some of the applicants, they had found employment elsewhere.
Okay. And the last thing I had was, how many, what can we do to help you?
Well, I don't have anything in particular today other than your continued support. Each and every one of you have been very supportive in anything that we've asked for. So the only thing that we're asking at this point is your continued support.
And to standing for the union and thinking about the working people in the city of Atlanta, do you think you had a goal of also saying the private partnership that we were using, the public-private partnership we were using for staffing, we had a goal of us hitting our 100% goal by the end of the year? Do you think you're still on target for that?
Well, reaching 100% staffing? No, we're not on target, and it's going to require some additional work for us to achieve that goal. And I don't think there's any city or county in the metro area that has reached that goal. Not that we're comfortable with the position that we're in, but we're comfortable with hovering in that 90 to 95% range.
What's the starting pay of technicians? You say that's a difficult position to fill, and how does it compare to other counties, other cities? And one thing about cities that are top 9 in America, top 10 cities, how does it compare?
Right. So there are different tiers of technicians, and the range it varies. In order for us to be able to understand the comparison between other cities or the private sector, we need to conduct a classification and pay study, which we plan to engage the Department of Human Resources at a later time to do. But we have not done that, so I don't have reliable information to provide to you at this time.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner, in the interest of time, I'm going to ask some quick kind of rapid-fire questions. So on page 7, the Q3 missed collections SLA met of 99%, how is that calculated? Is it, are we tracking that, or are we basing that on who happens to call in a missed service?
It's a collection of information that's collected from ATL 311 and records that we have collected manually. And so that's the importance of having our vehicle routing software that will be able to provide accurate and real-time data. So there is a margin for error, a slight margin for error, because we are performing some of the analysis manually. So it's a combination of information that we've collected from complaints and at the field level.
Yeah, I'm definitely not discounting. I know that there was a dramatic improvement in performance. I just caution us that, if we're basing it on those that call in or other methods, that we might not necessarily be capturing all of the missed service because of folks who are just giving up calling it in or letting us know. But I appreciate the steps that you're taking to try and implement software that will help us track that better and give us a real good view on that. Page 17, the Keep Atlanta Beautiful Commission, is there appetite or what would start a conversation about some pop-up recycling events in different areas of the city? I know that Charm did some very successful ones in Buckhead, and I feel like that may be a part of town that because we don't really have another recycling drop-off place that may or may not be convenient to them. Is there appetite, and who would I talk to about that?
So I will ask Ms. Greenlee to come up and speak to that. We recently had a discussion about that, ask her about that very thing. I know that Charm had an event previously where there was a pop-up event. We're currently working with Greenbrier Mall to collect certain items, but it's not as exhaustive as what Charm would provide. I don't think we could ever provide the same services as Charm because of the wide range of items that they collect. But as far as the appetite for working with Charm or us doing it independently, we're certainly open to doing that as a department. But I'll let Ms. Greenlee speak to the logistics of pulling this off.
Good morning. Kanika Greenlee, Department of Public Works. I think the appetite is there. One of the things that we started when we were doing the recycling event, Atlanta Recycles Day at Greenbrier Mall, which is every third Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon, is collecting data. So we collect all the zip code information. So we have that. We need to analyze the data to see what location would be best suited for. I have some anecdotal thoughts, but we need to analyze the data to see where the best location would be.
Thank you, Ms. Green. I'm happy to chat with you more further about that. I think let's take the opportunity as commodity rates are going back up to really encourage folks to recycle. Okay. Commissioner, I have two really quick questions left. On page 27, the staffing rates, is this as of today or is it as of end of third quarter?
That was for the reporting period, the end of the third quarter.
So as of March 31st, right?
Yes.
And the numbers I'm hoping have continued moving upward from there?
They're trending upward.
Very good. And the next page, and this will be my last question. So we're running about 72% as of the end of third quarter, which is what we would expect to be if we were operating full throttle, but we haven't been because your vacancy rates have been much lower and they've only recently started moving up. So I would have expected this number to be a lot lower. What has made up the difference? Is it overtime, extra help, or contracted services?
And it's a combination of all of the items that you mentioned. I think if your question is how are we able to perform the work with such short staffing levels, if I understand you correctly?
That's part of it. So yeah, answer that one, then I'll go back to the actual financial question.
Yeah, so again, bringing Mr. Chattahoochee on board, providing oversight of the solid waste division, he's put in several best management practices in conjunction with Ms. Greenlee and Deputy Commissioner Anu that offset some of our staffing challenges. And so goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that innovation and technology is helping us tremendously.
Okay. I'm assuming when we get our third quarter report in finance, I believe at the end of this month, we'll see kind of where the increase, obviously there have been offsetting increases in those three categories. I mentioned overtime, extra help, and contracted services. one thing I will look at, and you and I can have a conversation offline in this, is I am concerned about working conditions and the staff that has been with us through this whole year and through the pandemic. You mentioned also the accrued vacation situation, and one of the things I will ask for as well is just who did end up losing vacation over the turn of the year, because that's the last thing we need is pushing our employees to deliver, asking them to do overtime and not giving them the time off because we can't afford to, and then they lose that benefit. So
no one lost any time. They aren't allowed to continue working beyond that point if they're in a use-or-lose situation. There are provisions in place to where the executive office can exercise an executive order to where they would be able to potentially sell those hours back if that's what they decided to do, but no one was required to work in jeopardy of losing time.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. And also to your team, they are very responsive. Thank you all so much. Question, the gentleman that passed away, is there anything that we can do to help with his pension, or is his family okay? The gentleman that passed away from your department? Please check on that for us.
Will do.
Question, how often are the MARTA bus stops serviced along the M.L. King Jr. Drive corridor, and whose responsibility is that?
So we're looking into their shelter agreements, and they vary among the sites. So we're looking to collect that data. Based on the conversation that you and I had last week, we're trying to pull that information not just for the MLK corridor, but citywide. We have to engage MARTA in discussion outside of just the maintenance of the shelters, such as maintenance of their property as it relates to mowing and litter control as well. So we wanted to combine that discussion with the shelter.
From Peyton Road to Fulton Industrial, if you all would get us that schedule of how often, who will be working on that, and at the corner of Lyndhurst Drive and M.L. King Jr. Drive. There's a MARTA bus shelter right there also.
Okay.
Also, there will be a joint cleanup between the Department of Public Works, Keep Atlanta Beautiful Commission, May 14th. We will be leaving from the C.T. Martin Recreation Center and are recruiting volunteers. Thank you. May 14th, 9:30 a.m. Thank you.
So I just say, once again, if a department's job is to take direction from the leadership of the city and the city council, I've seen y'all do it. And as you do that, don't do other people's work as well. I've seen you also take over and do the state work in my district and still maintain that for months now. If that's MARTA's job, we need to put you in a room so we can figure out, because they got a lot of funding to do their own work. I think that with our staffing shortages right now, you've been tightening your belt, figuring it out. I want to make sure that the finance team doesn't take any funding, because we're going to hit that 100% or 90% mark, and we're going to need that money there. And we know y'all been tightening y'all belt. And I don't think y'all are paid. The employees are paid. I think that's why the turnover rate is so high. I know you haven't complained about it and you're staying away from it, but we need to know why we can't keep people.
I'm going to follow up on the line put forward here by the last two council members and ask you to have by Thursday the cost of, if your department is still doing this maintenance work, the work that GDOT should be doing along certain highway ramps, as well as the value of the work, if you're doing it, on the properties of various governmental entities downtown.
Yes, sir. So I would like to add, we have not incorporated any of the state routes into our schedules. However, we will respond to complaints when needed. So, for an example, Freedom Parkway is a state route, and Northside Drive is another area. And so, in an effort to keep the city of Atlanta looking great and appealing, we have addressed some issues on those corridors. Again, 60 days is just not quite enough, but we will try to monetize the maintenance of the state routes. I believe we have that information readily available. We have a unit price per mile of what it would cost to maintain all of the state routes.
Spectary.
Commissioner Wiggins, don't run away yet. First, I wanted to say thank you for everything.
Thank you.
I also wanted to give a shout out to your team that was kind enough to stop and assist the woman who fell and hurt herself in my district. And again, would love to honor those gentlemen at some point. And actually, one of the questions I have, it's slightly off the topic of the presentation, but to speak to the point of retention that has been brought up multiple times. I think something that would be helpful during this budget season for me is if you could actually survey, if it's possible, the DPW workforce, because I would like to see how many of the employees live within the city limits, because to the part of retention, it's also the responsibility of council to assist with that because of obviously affordable housing and living costs factor into that. And I know that a majority of our employees right now can't afford to live within the city. So if there's a way for you to survey that your staff to find out how many do so that we can factor that into our budget conversations to assist with retention, that would be very helpful.
Will do. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. You are excused.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Harris has been asked, and I want to thank her for her patience. She was asked to come up here and give a brief update to us and to the public as to the status of the administration's ongoing work to reimagine public access television. I thought it was good to get an update since a lot of water's gone over the dam between her last update and now, and then we've got another interval coming up between now and the work session. So where do things stand?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Just wanted to update you that the administration continues to be engaged with the People TV team and are working with them on their concerns that they've raised. And we look forward to presenting and discussing how we move forward at the work session on May 26th.
Questions from obviously this is going to be the subject of a full-blown work session coming up, but questions? Okay, Ms. Lewis.
What do you think because I know the mayor's office is supposed to be handling this, Councilmember Boone, keep making sure I know that portion. What are they saying?
I believe that is up for them to discuss at the May 26th work session. So I'm just providing an update on where we are at this point. That they are actively talking to People TV about their concerns.
So we should stay out of this until May. So I should fall back until May 26th because the mayor's office is going to direct this.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I'm going to be very interested to see what develops. It is my understanding that there is a lot of activity and discussions. No, Mr. Shakir, this is why we're having the work session. I told you yesterday we weren't going to get into back and forth.
However, do you think that you can't do
No. Mr. Shakir, now. No. Well, no, Mr. Shakir. Sorry. This is why we had the work session. I was nice enough to.
Well, it's in the mayor's office. We should be at the table. Somebody.
I understood.
Should be at that table.
And that's why we're having the work session, Mr. Shakir.
We should be at the organization of the conversation.
Yeah.
So to be clear, the People TV is a nonprofit that is a part of your office?
Not a part of my office. No, they're a nonprofit. They're
that you contract, that you would typically contract with, and you accept bids for contracts?
No, this agreement with People TV has been with the city of Atlanta. They've been a vendor for 35 years. But there have been some issues over the years with the contract agreement, and they were brought under another agreement for this last contract year, and it expired March the 9th, 2022.
But they're a vendor like any other vendor.
Like any other vendor, correct.
Okay, I was just making sure I was correct on that part.
Yes, they are a vendor.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Harris. Looking forward to the work session. I'm going to read the next two captions together. As I understand, there's a request from the administration to hold both of them. These are items H2 and H3. 22-0-1280 is an ordinance by Mr. Hillis to amend the city charter to give the authority, to give the city the authority to charge and collect taxes and assessments for sanitary and solid waste disposal services, and to collect, to establish and collect rates, fees, and charges for the same, to authorize adoption of an administrative procedure for the resolution of disputes regarding the basis of a sanitary and solid waste tax and or assessment against the property and for other purposes. Item number 3, 22-0-1334, is an ordinance by utilities authorizing the CFO to amend the FY 2022 Series 2018D wastewater bond fund budget in the amount of $1,572,750.50 to transfer funds from the wastewater environmental impact bond fund and add funds to the green infrastructure and landscape services for construction of the Mosley Park Green Infrastructure Project and the Grove Park Green Infrastructure Project. Those items have been, we have been asked to hold those items by the administration. If there's no objection, I will make that motion. Second by Mr. Hillis. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, let's please open the vote.
The vote is open. Please vote. The vote is closed.
All right, the ayes have it. It passes unanimously. Under resolutions, the first one is I-422-R-3574. This is a resolution by Mr. Amos requesting the Fulton County Tax Commissioner to no longer sell City of Atlanta solid waste service fee liens for residents 55 years of age or older and for other purposes. Ms. Hillis.
Yeah, certainly appreciate the intent of this, but would like to hear from law as to any, I know this is only a request of the council if it passes, but what is the legality of such an item?
Good morning, Mr. Hillis, Mr. Chair, and the rest of the committee. I am Stephanie Grant from the City's Law Department. Given that this is a resolution expressing the intent of the City Council, we have had a conversation with Mr. Amos. In direct response to your question, if passed in its current form, there is a potential that this paper would not be able to sustain a rational basis challenge under the Equal Protection Act because residents age 55 and over are not necessarily a protected class. However, as I stated, we've had a conversation with Mr. Amos reporting that information to him, and he is amenable if one of you should so desire to a friendly amendment to change the age limit to 65 in keeping with all the other senior citizen discounts applicable to solid waste. As you all know, there are 2 senior citizen discounts currently written into the solid waste code. But I also would say, again, it's a resolution expressing the intent of this council, and it would be up to Dr. Ferdinand to determine if he would care to implement the request.
Okay, well, I will make such an amendment to change the age from 55 to 65, anywhere referenced in the paper. Make that motion.
All right. We've got a first and multiple seconds. Any questions or comments about the amendment? All right, let's open the vote on the amendment from 55 to 65.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
All right, amendment passes unanimously. And motion to approve as amended, second by Mr. Winston. Let's open the vote.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the vote carries unanimously as amended. That takes us to 22R3589. This is a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing mayor or his designee to execute the third amendment to the emergency waste procurement agreement, which is listed municipal waste collection support with Ceres Environmental Services, Inc. on behalf of Public Works to add funding for continued municipal waste collection support services in an amount not to exceed $2 million. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the sources indicated.
Second.
Good morning again, Wiggins DPW Commissioner. So this legislation speaks directly to the challenge that we discussed earlier. Due to staffing challenges, we had to ramp up our contractual agreement with Ceres Environmental, who has assisted us with bulk pickup and illegal dumping at times. So this $2 million will carry us through our current commitment with, I believe, just under $75K remaining for incidental services that we may need at a later time.
All right, so if I understand this correctly, the first contract was executed for $2 million, and then we added another $1 million. This adds another $2 million. Is that correct?
I believe so. Melissa, we'll see if we can bring our finance director up to provide clarification on that.
While she's walking up, my question here is, I would imagine, again, as your vacancies are falling and your staffing back up, would expect the contract amount to be going the other direction versus back to where kind of peak service was during the pandemic. So I just need to understand that a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's not really, although we have improved on our staffing position, we have not really spent our efforts towards filling the vacancies towards bulk collections. Our priority has been curbside collections. And so that was the very last area for us to place our drivers and our laborers to fill up that service.
I do want to confirm the amounts, though.
Good morning, Melissa Davis, Department of Public Works. The first contract was for $1 million, and then the amendment was for an additional $1 million, and now this adds an additional $2 million.
Right, so again, it was $1 million, and now it's $2 million.
Yes, the original contract was executed in August 2020 and expired in November, and that was for $1 million. Then the first amendment, again, was $1 million, and then the second amendment is now adding $2 million.
Thank you. And then my final question is, so do we anticipate, based on current hiring trends and, again, the prioritization of, the regular versus bulk, that are we anticipating that this will be the last time we're going to need this, and by the time these funds run out, we'll be back to full throttle?
So we do. Due to the recent hiring blitz, we extended offers to fill the vacant. We have 2 vacant crews. We need about 6, so we have 4 of those 6. Through the recent hiring blitz, we anticipate that we'll be able to fill those vacancies. I would also like to add that there is a connection between the overage for contractual services and how we have fallen short of the anticipated costs for personnel. So there's a direct correlation there.
All right. Motion made with a proper second. If there's nothing else, let's open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
That carries unanimously. That takes us to 22R3590. This is a resolution by Utilities authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an IGA with the City of South Fulton on behalf of the Watershed Management Department for the purpose of adjusting water and sewer facilities that are in conflict with the City of South Fulton's intersection improvement project, which is indicated, which is located at Campbellton Road at Stonewall Tell Road in an amount not to exceed $93,738, all contracted work being charged to and paid from, etc. Mr. Vaccaro.
Good morning, Council members. Rob Vaccaro, Department of Watershed Management. The City of South Fulton is sponsoring an intersection improvement project at the intersection of Campbellton and Stonewall Tell Roads. The proposed project includes adding left and right turn lanes on all approaches, installing traffic signals on mast arm signal poles, and improving the curb and gutter, drainage and street lights. Watershed Management has existing facilities that present a utility conflict for the project. As a result, Watershed Management's scope of work includes adjusting and relocating and replacing the following: 110 feet of 12-inch water main, 3 water valve boxes, and 2 fire hydrants for the project. So this legislation is to authorize the mayor to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of South Fulton and to appropriate funds in the amount not to exceed $93,738 for construction services related to the proposed intersection improvement project. There is a copy of the IGA and map showing the location of the project with the legislation.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Motion by Lewis, second by Winston. Let's ring it up.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, carries unanimously. That we have no papers coming off held. We've already done the communication. So does that exhaust our list of action items today? Bless you. Questions, comments, announcements for the good of the body? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.